Charlene Hedding, welcome to Jerusalem Dateline.
Thank you, Julie.
Tell us what's happening in Syria right now. Who is getting killed?
In the most shocking images that we've seen in my entire life in the humanitarian world, we have seen the images of Sunnis from the HDS, which is the current leadership of Syria, and other Turkish-backed militias slaughtering Alawites and anyone else, including Christians, that live in that population area on the coastal plains of Syria.
Wow, so it's mostly Alawites that are getting killed, or what kind of numbers? What are you hearing from there?
We're hearing reports of 2,000 to 3,000, and it's increasing every couple of hours. And we're seeing images and speaking to people on the ground that are just saying the bodies are piled up in the streets. So we are estimating that these numbers are low. It's probably closer to 8 to 10.
And they're mostly Alawites. Who are the Alawites?
The Alawites are an ethnic religious entity or component in Syria, which is making up many of the different components of Syria, different ethnic religious minorities. So you have Christians, Alawites, Kurds, many different ethno-religious groups, and the Alawites are the group that is associated, unfortunately, with the Assad regime, but not every civilian is Assad and can't be held responsible for what Assad did.
Right. And those were mostly the people that got massacred over this last weekend?
Yes, this is a Sunni revenge of Galani, the current self-made president of Syria, and his groups of jihadist terrorists, basically, that make up his government, that have been on an absolute rampage and a killing spree across the coastal plains of Syria.
And what's the state of the Christians there?
Well, the Christian community is interspersed within all of these communities, including a significant number along this coastal plain region where the Alawites live. And I've spoken to many of the Christians in this area, and they are experiencing this random looting, shooting, and executions in exactly the same way as the Alawites have been. So this is a Sunni, which Galani is a Sunni. These are his groups, his government-controlled groups, that are committing these ethno-religious genocidal acts, very much like we saw with ISIS, which was also Sunni, against other ethnic religious minorities.
And how should the world be responding to this? I mean, it's kind of been under the radar to a certain extent.
Under the radar in most places except Israel. Israel has been strikingly on this from the very beginning. When Galani or al-Shara took over Syria, they have called him out for being the terrorist that he is. He was part of the Jabhat al-Nusra or al-Qaeda group in Syria. He had a $10 million bounty on his head for killing many ethno-religious minorities across Iraq and Syria and Americans. So I think the international response, including Marco Rubio just in the last day, has been really strong, coming against these jihadi militias and terrorists. Israel's been very strong, but unfortunately there are some countries that have been naive and have embraced this new self-made regime. Remember, Galani has dismissed the constitution, so he's a dictator. And a Sunni one with al-Qaeda background, a dictator.
And so where do you think this is heading? Where?
I think that just like Israel believes that Galani or al-Shara has, transformed himself from a man with a beard and wearing the clothing of a terrorist jihadi, and the fact that he's put on a suit doesn't make him a moderate democratic governor that's going to include all components of Syria. He's a terrorist, his background is terrorist, and basically the mask has been peeled off, and what we are seeing now is really what he supports. These militias, these are government now controlled people, an army people that have come in and have backed these different groups that have committed this ethno-religious killing.
And you were mentioning that you had actually been in touch with one Alawite family.
Yeah, I've been in touch with Christians and Alawite families in the last 48 hours, and they've all told me the same thing. One of them said to me there were Sunni terrorists that came in from Idlib. Idlib is the area that Galani used to manage, backed by Turkey. So these Turkish terrorist-backed terrorists came in under Galani's control. They mobilized and they rode in on motorbikes or walked in, and they just started shooting anyone who wasn't Sunni. I mean, and going into their homes, shooting people. They said it was totally random if you survived or not. 2 men were sitting outside, 2 Alawite men from this family member of the person I spoke to, and they were just shot because they were Alawites. They were just sitting outside their home having a cup of coffee. But the worst is the targeted killings, the going into the homes of anyone who's not a Sunni aligned with HDS or Galani's group, that they've gone in and executed them. They took out the men from their homes and executed them outside of their homes. This is ISIS-style terrorism that we're seeing.
Yeah. Now, you've been working with refugees and with persecuted Christians in the Middle East for many, many years. And I understand you've just sent some aid.
Yes, we're very excited to announce that we've just sent an airlift of aid into northeast Syria, where we are supporting all of the ethnic religious minorities in Syria that are being terrorized by these Turkish-backed and Galani-backed terrorist groups. So we're supporting them. The aid has been significant amounts of medicine, and we're also working out on how to help people that have escaped. So many people, because they were going from house to house killing people, have escaped into the desert or into the fields, and so we're trying to help those that are in hiding.
Yeah, and Israel has also offered help to the Druze particularly. Well, what else is Israel doing? Israel's
been really strong in helping with humanitarian aid, and they've been very outspoken about their support to northeast Syria, which is under the Christian, Kurdish, Druze and Arab tribes, but it's a semi-autonomous region that actually does practice good governance and inclusiveness for all religious minorities, and of course the Druze. And we've seen trucks of aid going up from Israel into the Druze areas in support of them. So Israel's been very strong, like Marco Rubio has been, on protecting the religious minorities and making sure that this mosaic that makes up Syria is not ending up being another ISIS caliphate or Sunni caliphate.
That's very good, very good. So how can people pray?
I think people should pray for the religious minorities that are being killed by these Turkish-backed and Galani government-backed forces. This is a Sunni insurgency that is to regain dominance over Syria, and none of us need a terrorist state on our border here in the Middle East. So pray against that.
Very good. Thank you so much, Charlene Hedding, for joining us today and for your insights. And may the Lord bless you and the amazing work that you're doing in helping people.
Thank you so much, Julie. Appreciate your support.